Allan's Answers podcast, and today I got 4 questions lined up for us today. And the first one comes from Beast AP2 or whatever your perspective is on that name. And they have a philosophical question asking, in a crime, which is more important, the result or the intention? And I feel like that they kind of go hand in hand, you know, like the intention is the cause and the result is the effect. Like, it all starts with a feeling or a want or just a driving force that kind of leads people to commit an evil act that could be anything from stealing to lying, and then to maybe even killing somebody, you know. And so they obviously have varying degrees of like intensity, but I feel like that the intention is the driving factor, and without it there would be no art, there would be no like result, you know, because without the intention of wanting to commit a crime, you can't have a full-fledged crime. Like, there can be accidents and things like that, but without the result, or without actually meaning to intentionally and purposefully commit something wrong, then you will not have a crime. So I guess that's important, but the result is when the actual crime takes place, you know. Like, if you wanted to kill somebody, intended on doing it, the result is actually having them be dead because you murdered them, you know. And so that's also important too, and without that, then there would be no crime to begin with, because nothing bad would have happened. So I guess they kind of they kind of interweave with each other, and kind of, I guess, they're important in each respect, and I think that you can't really judge one as being more important than the other. So hopefully that answers your question. And then Banjaran asks, when does one's responsibility start? By saying you are the cause, or by standing for others' causes? And I feel like that responsibility, you've all heard the saying from Spider-Man that with great power comes with great responsibility, where I guess in a sense responsibility starts when somebody expects something from you, tasks you with something, or you gain the power and order to be responsible for something else, you know. Like, once people become dependent upon you for something that you're capable of doing, like kids with a family, or kids are dependent upon their parents because their parents provide them with food and the necessities for life, you know. So right when you have the kind of idea to become a parent, I think that's when your responsibility starts. Like, because you need to plan effectively for it, and then once it actually happens, then that responsibility goes into full-fledged action, you know. And I feel like that, I think what he's asking is, when you're saying you are the cause, it's basically taking initiative for yourself, and basically what you do personally is what affects the rest of the world, and therefore you have to own up for your actions, and you have to be responsible for that. And I feel like in those instances, the responsibility for that happens right when you commit that action. In a sense, it also happens when you intend to do that action as well, you know. Like, you have to own up and be ready to receive the consequences for your actions, whether it be good or bad, you know. And when you stand for others' causes, you know, they already put the actions into effect, you know. They have to be responsible for their own actions, but when you associate yourself with what they are, you, in a sense, kind of lay the load, take some of the load, and are, in a sense, responsible for what they do as well, you know. And I guess that especially is the case when those people who you're responsible for are dependent upon you, like when I said when kids, you know, if you're a parent and you have kids. So hopefully that answers your question. And then now asks, how do you deal with the past? I tend to think about bad experiences. I don't like these feelings and I want to forget them, but it seems hard. I want to look forward, and I want to say that the best way to deal with the past is to kind of like disassociate that feeling and emotions that are tied and connected to that experience that you had in the past, you know. The experience is the experience. Humans are what associate those things that happen with emotions, and thus we remember it in a certain fashion, you know. And I don't think your memories are as effective, because I feel like you can remember things as being better or worse than how they actually happen, because as time progresses, your memories degrade, and you can't like pinpoint or have an exact like memory. Well, some people do, but I don't think that's the case for the general public, you know. And I guess the best way I can tell you is the past is important, and you need to look on the past to how to to kind of learn how to adapt and figure out how to improve your life based upon the lessons that you've learned, because those bad experiences have obviously been good learning experiences because they shown you that something bad went wrong when you did a certain thing, so therefore you want to change that behavior so that bad thing doesn't happen again, you know? So you need to look at it. You can't just forget your bad experiences, but the way to make them feel less painful is to disassociate that emotional marker that you have with that point, and then just look at it purely from a point where this is what happened and I'm going to get over it and I'm going to learn from it, you know? And I guess that's the best way you can do it. It's easier said than done, but I feel like it's possible, so hopefully that helps you out. And then Brittany asks, is the end inevitable? And I think that without a beginning there is no end, you know? So I feel like that this question, my emotions are my perspective on this question is saying that it's kind of negative, because end is normally associated with negative feelings because you don't want things to end, especially if they're good, you know? Well, bad things are fine if they're end because you don't want them to continue on, but like things like life especially is something that popped into my head when I first read this, you know? I feel like that in regards to your question, surely that we're all going to die at some point, but I don't think that you necessarily have to view from this perspective that, oh, I'm going to die in like 70 years, oh, I'm so worried about it, you know? I feel like you should view it as, oh, I'm going to be living for 70 great years and I'm so excited to live them out, you know? Because then at that point, you're taking your life and just morphing your perspective in order to make it a happy life, you know? And I feel like that the future is kind of immortal, you know? What is inside the present, though, is always changing, you know? Our environment is completely changing every single day. Like, no day is similar from the next. And I feel like that there will always be a next day, though. Like, the future, this future was the future of what I was talking when I first talked about this question, you know? So it's just always, I feel like it's always going to continue on. So there's not necessarily an end to all, but it depends on what specific thing you're talking about. But then again, with every end, there is a new beginning, at least in my perspective, you know? Once a door closes, another one opens. So try to stay positive about it, but I feel like that it's, in the end, there are plenty of things that are going to end, but there are plenty of things that are going to start up again right after others end. So hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully that answers your question, guys, and I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. So see you guys.